Billy Donnelly, this is Infamous, here with Jon Schnepp, director and creator of the soon-to-be-released documentary, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened?
Hey, what's going on, Billy? Finally, in the flesh. Been talking to him for a while. Here he is. He's real. I'm real. Non-digital transformation communication.
I will not touch because I know the con flu is a big deal for you, so I will make sure I keep my germs to myself. I will make sure I keep my germs to myself. You keep yours to yourself.
That's right.
Superman Lives, or the Death of Superman, obviously a legendary film, kind of in geek circles, because of the fact that it did come so far, and yet we were still so far away from it happening.
Yeah.
What was, I guess, behind the idea to try and explore this film in such depth to try and get answers as to where it kind of broke down along the way?
Well, it's interesting because, like, I mean, it's weird. Like, from coming from a directing animation and live action television, it's like you just have a process where you're like, kind of for me, I don't give up. Like, I'm like, hey, I have a shot I want to make. We're going to make that happen. Or I have an idea or a vision. I want to try to see that come to life. And so approaching the documentary that way, I just looked at it as like, well, now I'm like a digital archaeologist, and I'm going to keep finding out more about it until I feel like I found out as much as I possibly can. And that sensibility this is why, it took a little bit longer than I thought, but most documentaries take about 4 years. It's just mine has been very public from the second I thought of it. It was like, I did a Kickstarter, and it was like, now everyone's like, when are you going to be done with it? I'm like, hang on, I'm trying to make it.
Were you surprised by the response to how badly people wanted to see that film? Because the Kickstarter went up. That's how the film got funded. You were short for a while, asked for more money. That money got funded. People were really interested and curious to find out what happened with this film.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I was very shocked because to me it was just my own personal interest in this different iteration of Superman. Why I was interested in it is because, as being a comic book fan, there's always been different takes on all of the characters. There's Elseworlds, there's different versions of outfits. Superman died in 1993, came back with a black outfit. He had long hair in 93, and then this movie was going to be made in 98. People are like, Superman with long hair? It's like, because comic book movie fans are completely different than comic book fans. Comic book fans read comics and know about the characters and the history. Comic book movie fans just like Iron Man the movie. They don't have any idea, and it's okay, but it's like they're like, a lot of people are like, I'm a comic book fan. It's like, not really. You're just like a temporary floaty person that's in our world for a minute, and you're gonna drift away when it's convenient. That's how I look at it. But it's like, you have true fans who really get into this world. So for me, I like the idea of this only after seeing other versions. Like the Bryan Singer Superman Returns film, to me, is fatally flawed. The idea of it is cool. Like, let's take Richard Donner's thing, let's use John Williams' score, let's get a Christopher Reeve sound alike, let's make a sequel to Superman 2. All that stuff I was behind. It was a cool idea. Like, yeah, let's do that. And then you see it executed, and I don't want to see the Fortress of Solitude again the same way. I don't want to see Lex Luthor buying land again. I don't want to see, there was just a lot of stuff. Plus, he just floated around. It was boring.
Yeah.
So I was like, ultimately, like, I think the idea behind it was really smart, but then once they got into the execution of it, and then him lifting a kryptonite mountain at the end just made no sense. I mean, there was like a lot of stuff. So for me, like, that movie, when it was over, I fell asleep in the theater twice. So I was like, I didn't really find it like to be the Superman movie that I was looking forward to. So that made me look backwards. Like, well, I remember seeing some artwork in 2002, this weird kind of Mobius style heavy metal Superman art for the Tim Burton Superman. And so I started searching for it online, like in 2007, like Superman concept art. I would do that every couple months, and then in 2010, and of course I saw the Kevin Smith, John Peters, Giant Spider, Polar Bear thing, so I already had that interest. And then I met Steve Johnson, the special effects artist who had designed all those outfits, and that was in 2012. And after I met him, I was telling some friends, I was like, hey, I have like a little folder that's got all this cool, weird concept art. And they're like, wow, that sounds interesting, man. You're really passionate about it. Why don't you make a documentary? And I was like, I don't make documentaries. And someone else was like, well, you could raise the money on Kickstarter, because I'd just done a Kickstarter for this other animated cartoon, like a heavy metal kind of thing that I wanted to make. So I made that. Unfortunately, I don't own it, so I can't do anything with it. So this time I was like, I'm going to own my own film. I'm not going to deal with people who are going to suppress a film that I just made. So I was like, I'm going to own my own film with The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. And if people want to see it, litmus test, Kickstarter, then I'll make it. So it exploded. I didn't realize how many people, like a whole bunch of people emailed me, like, I was going to make that film. I was like, we're like, let's team up and make it. And I was like, no, I'm going to make this, but you can make one too. It doesn't matter. It's like, So anyway, started the semi-long road of trying to make this film, trying to get in contact with Kevin Smith, Tim Burton, John Peters, all these people, and slowly, eventually, like a year and a half later, I got in contact with Kevin Smith's people. We were able to arrange an interview. Then literally, the same kind of like 6-month kind of thing with Tim Burton and getting him interested to talk to me, and then like he agreed to meet me, so I had to fly out to London just to meet him. And then he, like, after I met him, and Holly, our producer, and my fiance, we, like, after meeting both of us, he was like, all right, I'll do the interview. So 2 days later, we do the interview, and it was fantastic. So I was like, got Kevin Smith, got Tim Burton. Then it took a full more year to get John Peters. Literally, we got John Peters after we had already locked picture a month before the premiere of the movie. We interviewed him, and he was fantastic because I just couldn't contact him. There was no way to get to him. And finally, someone like said, a friend of a friend was like, look, here's some communications way to get to him. And I ended up just calling his attorney. And I was like, look, man, this is Jon Schnepp. I'm trying to make this movie. And I just explained to him where I'm coming from. And originally he was like, well, I don't want you to be making fun of it. I was like, I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm like into this idea, and I just want to talk to him. Other people kind of are cracking on him, so this is his chance to actually like say what he wants to say. He thought about it. The following week, he was like, he'll do it. I went, interviewed him. He was a totally kick-ass dude, and he kind of steals the movie.
Were you surprised kind of by how candid people were and the amount of access that you were granted through it? Or going in, did you expect kind of, some obstacles to go up, or people to kind of be unwilling to talk about it, I guess, considering the history of it?
Yeah, most people were not willing to talk about it at first. They were like, who's this guy? And I come from making comedy shows, so they were like, probably thought he's going to make fun of me or this or that. Plus, it's a film that in most people's eyes is looked at as a failure because it was shuttered, and all the people who worked on it were made fun of because people made fun of Nick Cage and the outfit, which is actually just a test photo of him like in mid-blink. I found the footage of that right when that photo got taken. So it was like one of those things where you're like, check it out, bam. It's like, it's just such a weird thing to, now that I know all this stuff that no one else knows until they see the film, it's weird. Most people who've seen this movie, even if they come in saying, man, we dodged a bullet, most of the people come out saying, I wish they made this movie.
Well, looking at some of the concept art, talking with them, having a better idea of what they wanted to do, their vision, their take on Superman, looking at how the landscape was at that point in time, as opposed to where we are now with comic book films being very mainstream, kind of dominating the Hollywood landscape. How do you think that film would have been received?
I think it would have been a positive one because honestly, it wasn't that different from what a Superman movie, like everyone's like, it would have been this weird thing with him in an alien outfit. It's like they had the red, blue, and yellow suit. He was wearing that. He fights Doomsday. He dies. He comes back in a Kryptonian suit, just like the comics, regenerated, and then he has the new suit at the end, just like in the comics. So it's sort of like it followed this comic book storyline, but then reinterpreted with Christopher Walken was going to play Brainiac. Now imagine him and Kevin Spacey with like the incredible two-headed transplant, like arguing with each other. Granted, that's not maybe like the gloomy, dark, spooky version that you might want, but it would have been awesome. And I can't argue that. I'm like, I want to see that.
Yes.
I would desperately want to see like Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor and Christopher Walken as Brainiac with their heads together on a spider body arguing like, I'm going to kill Superman. How dare you? Or whatever. Whatever the dialogue would have been. It would have been a lighter tone. It would have had some comedy to it. The scripts, none of the scripts were ever finished or completed. And as we know in making a film, the script is usually a blueprint and it changes as the actors come in, they add their dialogue, the director changes stuff, then it gets edited, re-edited, reshot, reshoots. I mean, so all that would have happened with this film, so we don't really know. So this version, this documentary shows you different iterations of what Doomsday could have looked like, what Brainiac could have looked like. There's all these amazing designs from all these different artists. They never really locked in on one specific thing. They did end up getting a lot of the suits done. They got some sets done. They got some cool stuff done. But ultimately, the concept design, like from Krypton to what Metropolis would have looked like, had like a lighter tone version of what Tim Burton's, what you're used to with that kind of thing. And I just think it would have been a fun film. So that's what I come away with is also interviewing a lot of the artists and all the people, all the writers from Kevin Smith, Wesley Strick, Dan Gilroy, to Tim Burton. I think it was kind of like a fun thing for them to finally be able to talk about it and not look at it as a disappointing failure, but to look at it as like, look at what could have been. These are this is what we were trying to do. This is why it got shut down. And most of them were all disappointed. Like, I really wish I could have made this film. Almost everybody has that lament. But that's kind of part of what the film's about. It's about the lament of like, hey, there was this happening at this, you know, the creativity was on this level, and then here's the business side of it. And you cannot, movie making and television, it's all business. Even though we like to, you know, we have toys and this and that, we'd love to talk about it. It's like, if it's not going to make money, or if there's that fear, Batman and Robin had just come out. Now remember, Batman and Robin, we know about Batman and Robin.
But at the time, we didn't.
No, it had come out.
Well, yeah. And it happened, and it was.
And then Superman was about to get made a year later after Batman and Robin come out. So there was like totally killed the Batman franchise. Tim Burton's name was still attached to it, even though he had nothing to do with Batman and Robin. That coupled with the fear of like, is he going to make a spooky cyborg Superman? Like, no one was really looking into what they were trying to do. They just saw like this one thing. They're like, what's that? And it's like, no, they have all this other stuff. You got to look at, no, what's this? So a lot of that, plus Warner Brothers had a series of box office bombs. Like, every movie was underperforming. So every single movie was like 80 million, 20 million profit. You know, it cost 50 million and only made 13 million. So it was like, they had to make some heavy decisions on what the next blockbuster they were going to, you know, put all their, you know, eggs into. So there's a lot of reasons as to why the film didn't get made. So you can't really blame like one particular thing. But ultimately, I mean, this is kind of an ode to what the process of trying to make something in Hollywood is all about. It's not pointing fingers at anybody. It's just, this is what happens to tons of productions. I mean, you could name you could go through all of the what ifs of all those movies. You have that Justice League Mortal, you have Batman, Aronofsky's Batman, you have all these different films, you have J.J. Abrams' Superman Flyby, you have all these different films that are just like the what ifs that you could have made. July 9th, if you want to see it, it's a truly independent movie. I'm releasing it myself at www.tdoslwh.com. Once again, that's tdoslwh.com. Just like The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, it's just the first letter of every of the word. So it's like tdoslwh.com, and you could get the digital download with 8 hours of bonus material, or you could buy a Blu-ray with 8 hours of bonus material. Either way, if you want to see it July 9th, get the digital download. You could watch it right then when we premiere it at San Diego Comic-Con. I'll have a booth there. It's booth number 3915. I'm pimping that shit, yo.
Right. Plug away.
Yeah. Booth 3915. Come and buy the Blu-ray there. I'll have it there. I'll have these giant posters that an amazing artist, Nick Runge, did. Incredible artist. He studied under Drew Struzan. I was like, yo, I want to rock a poster instead of a giant Photoshop head. Let's paint that and make it like a young Frankenstein thing. Let's make some art. So that's what I'm about, man. Let's make some creativity, yo.
Thanks, and
thank you so
come
much,
to the mantra,
Billy.
man. Go buy a comic.
Go buy comics. You're at Supercon. Every time you're at a comic book convention, I don't want to hear about like you don't read comics. There's guys selling comics for $1 a piece. Just randomly pluck one out and fucking read a comic book.
Just
buy one.
Jon Schnepp.